Good early afternoon. We are live here on the Blue Plate Special. I'm Andy Andrews from Wisdom Harbor Studios at the Wharf in beautiful Orange Beach, Alabama. We're glad you're with us. We're going to answer a couple of questions today that you had Tuesday. I actually know that it is Thursday today. I know that we do have the weekend. I told several of Tuesday, I said, hey, have a good weekend. Then I said to Matt, you know what is today? Man, when the hurricane stuff is going to 24 hours a day, and you just like to lose track. And then you add it to my ADD, and it's even worse. But we are glad you are here. Hey, Diane Hale from Tennessee, and Patricia Clapp from North Carolina, and Myra Sarton Woods. How are you guys doing? Marty White from Orange Beach. Why aren't you out cleaning up? And Stephen, gorgeous day in Minneapolis. Yeah, don't rub it in. I teasing Dan Stone about moving to Duluth, and I'm like, well, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. There's Colorado, bunch of you guys. 2 Colorados in a row. If you are new to Facebook, I sure wish you would just click that notification thing, and it's just right there, right there on the screen. You can be notified every time that we're on the air, because we don't really know. It's kind of settled into a Tuesday and Thursday thing that just has seemed to work for a while, but that's not to say we won't do Monday or Wednesday or Friday. Hello, Instagram people. You like the shirt? Yeah, I like the shirt because there's stuff on the front, okay? And this is from Sand Dollar Lifestyles, right here, the cornerstone store of the Wharf. Our buddies right down the street, right down Main Street. Now, you know where we are, right? We're second floor, west side, 8 palm trees up from the Marlin statues. And right over here behind us, and right over here, and right down here are the most beautiful escalator statues that I think that you have ever seen. You got to see them. Life-size escalator statues. They look like the real thing, and you can stand on them, take pictures with them, and it's pretty neat. Let's see, Twitter guys. Brian, are you here with the Twitter, with your Twitter army? And if you're on YouTube, and when you go to YouTube, please click that subscribe button. Okay, that would really help us. I told you that I would tell you yesterday who the horn player is in the noticer theme. That, you know, at the end of every episode, or every podcast episode, actually the beginning and the end, is the noticer theme. And at the end we say the noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. And then we found out that, you know, Anthony said, yeah, the horn player in that, and he told me who it was, and we were talking about it yesterday, and I could not think of the name, but I knew he had done just like a ton of stuff. And so I've got that for you in just a minute. I'm going to talk about finding an old friend that I am just like blown away at what he has done. Actually, Anthony, you know, of Sugarcane Jane, Anthony Crawford, was kind of an old friend that I found. And but I found an old friend just the other day, and I'm just like blown away at what's happening in his life. And I'll tell you how we found him the first time, and what Polly did the night we found him to make us all cringe. Okay, I'll tell you that story in just a little bit. Just nobody call her and tell her I'm about to tell that story. Okay. Hey, look what we found. You know, we have the Just Jones Java, and for people who have Keurigs, look here. There's little things that we can fill the little Keurig containers with Just Jones Java. These are called Perfect Pods, and there's 100% satisfaction guaranteed. 100% satisfaction. And so, anyway, you just open the little plastic lid and fill it with your favorite coffee, which I'm sure is the Just Jones brand. I am shocked that people are just. Why am I shocked? I'm not shocked that people love it. I've always been kind of surprised when people like coffee, period, because it smells good to me. I just don't really. But Matt made this morning here in the studio, and I really did like it. So, all right. And then there's some kind of little tea bag thing that I put in my water that I got at Bed Bath & Beyond, and it's some kind of like a cold water tea bag, to make your water taste different. Yeah, actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. By the way, we are 77 days, 12 hours, and 38 minutes away from 2021. Okay? I'm sure you see the countdown clock right there in the bottom. Jimmy Yeary likes the coffee. Let me tell you something about Jimmy Yeary. Jimmy Yeary. Now, if you were watching yesterday, you got to see Jimmy Yeary. We shared that show he did from Yeary Chapel. But Jimmy Yeary is right now the person who wrote the #1 song in America. So the Tim McGraw song "I Called Mama" just went #1, and Jimmy wrote that. We're very, very proud of Jimmy. I think that gives him like 9 #1s, and that's only in country music. That doesn't even include the other genres. He had a song not too long ago that was #1 on the bluegrass charts for 4 weeks in a row. Then it went to #2 and then back to #1. How about that? Hey, if you can, please share this. If you're on Facebook, please share this show. We're going to talk about something very, very important here in about 10 minutes. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories first, but then I'll talk something very important. And if you wouldn't mind sharing this to your page, there's a share button right there, and it gives you an option. You just share to your page. And then, we will be live on your page as well as this, okay? Hey, did you see the oak tree shirt? We're in the studio here. We're calling it the Just Jones shirt, but it's the shirt, the long sleeve shirt, a Comfort Colors brand shirt. Matt, can you show that? It has the arrowhead on the front, and if you've read the book, then you totally get the shirt. And then on the back, it has the oak tree and the the saying from the book. It's a beautiful shirt. I wore one the other day, and it was just very, very comfortable right when we got it in. Okay, let me answer the question about the horn player. Jimmy, you're going to be interested in this, because Anthony told me, it's like when we got the song, and it's the same. This is the theme song for the Blue Plate Special and the theme song for the Professional Noticer podcast, which we call that the Noticer theme. And that really is the name of it because it didn't have a name before, and so now it's got a name, and it's the Noticer theme. And I don't get tired of listening to that song. I really like that song. So I hope you do too. But as I'm talking to Anthony, he said, yeah, we did that in the studio one day. We're just kind of really messing around. We were messing around. I'd written this thing, and then Wayne Jackson is kind of going in with it. And I said, like, who's Wayne Jackson? He said, oh, he's, horn player friend of mine. I said, oh, okay, yeah. And then he mentioned later, he said, yeah, Wayne, he had come to, to do this, and we were just hanging out, and he had been in town doing some sessions with Aretha. And I said, oh, so he's like a session player. And he said, oh, yeah. I mean, Anthony is like, he's just very humble, but kind of oblivious to the fact that we're like, really? And so he said, oh, yeah, he did. He was on all of Aretha's albums, Wayne Jackson was. I was like, oh, okay. And so one day I'm, kind of by myself and just messing around. And there's a Wayne Jackson. And so I Google the guy. Now, I wrote this down for you because the other day I couldn't think of the guy's name. And everybody was going, throwing names at us. And it was like, no, he's nobody that I had heard of. But that's just me. But Wayne Jackson died in 2016 at 74. He was on 52 number one records, on 83 gold and platinum records. How about that? He was on Otis Redding's Dock of the Bay. He was on Dusty Springfield's Son of a Preacher Man. He was on Sam and Dave's Soul Man. I mean, right? So, I'm a soul man. And he was, dun, 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 dun. That was him right there, you know. Let's see. He was on Elvis's Suspicious Minds. He was on Al Green's Let's Stay Together. On Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline. So he was doing, Neil would go, Sweet Caroline, and Wayne Jackson would go, dun, dun, dun. That was him. So he also did stuff. I mean, I looked at the obituary that Rolling Stone did. And so they said, they just listed some of the people that he had worked with. He worked with U2, Isaac Hayes, Peter Gabriel, Neil Young, Billy Joel, Rod Stewart, Joe Cocker, Jimmy Buffett, the Doobie Brothers, and was even on Alicia Keys' Quantum of Solace James Bond theme. How about that? Isn't that crazy? Okay, so let me tell you about my my long-lost friend. And Judson, I saw you on there, so you're going to have to tell your dad this. But there was a time, Polly and I had just gotten married, and we went to Los Angeles, moved to Los Angeles for like 6 months. This was when I was working as a comedian, and so I was working on some stuff out there and had to be out there for like 6 months. And so we had an apartment that was, the entire apartment was probably about, no, it wasn't as big as this table. It was like maybe half the size of the table, and it cost like, you know, $1 million a month. It was crazy. It was very small, and so we took Barney the Dalmatian. We had a Dalmatian named Barney at that time, and it was a no dogs allowed apartment. And you know what a rule follower I am. And so we had Barney that we would put in a duffel bag and throw it over our shoulder and go down the elevator and take him to the car to go to a park. But it was funny because when we would train him to stay in that duffel bag, we would put a couple of dog biscuits in there. So we'd be standing there in the elevator with other people and duffel bag, and it'd be going. So, but we carried Barney around everywhere, and he drove all the way across the country with us. When Barney would get restless in the car, we would put the Prairie Home Companion on. It just the stories from Garrison Keillor, and man, I'm telling you, as soon as Garrison Keillor's voice came on, the dog would just like lay down and just go to sleep. It was just so calming. You know, Garrison Keillor go, well, it has been a quiet week in Lake Wobegon, my hometown. And the dog was just like, ooh. But I loved Garrison Keillor. So who is sick? Kathy Ellis Stone. Your husband's back from working in a crew. Yeah, a hurricane crew, and thinks he's sick. Man, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I've got a buddy over in Destin that's sick right now, and you know, a lot of us have a buddy up in Tuscaloosa who is sick. But anyway, we're out in LA, and there were some guys that I would shoot sporting clays with. Now, sporting clays is not like it's not like trap and skeet. Trap comes out from the same place right under you like that, and you back up, and that's an Olympic sport, and skeet is also an Olympic sport where you you stand in different areas in like a half moon, and they're coming from these towers. Sporting clays is more, hunters like sporting clays because it's just like different situations. You're walking in different areas, and they'll have one for you there that the things come out like from behind you or something, and it's just all different, all different things. But we would go shoot sporting clays every Sunday afternoon. And one of the guys that I would shoot sporting clays with was a guy named Jameson Parker. Now, if you recognize that name, Jameson was the good-looking guy on Simon and Simon. Do you remember? Remember Simon and Simon? So Jameson was the blonde guy on Simon and Simon, and he and I had hunted together, and so we would go shooting together, and so several of the people that would meet us out there on Sunday afternoon were in the entertainment industry, and we had met this one guy once, okay, and so he asked us to come over to eat, at his house. He said he was going to have a wild game supper, and Andy, bring your wife, and Jameson come, and there was somebody else. I can't remember exactly who, but the guy who had invited us, a guy named Chris Dorsey, real nice guy, very young guy, seemed like maybe a little younger than I was at that time, and I think I was like 29 or 30 or something like that, and so Chris looked like 24, 25, real young guy, and so we get there, and it, like everything else in Los Angeles, it's a small apartment. But we never will forget the meal because Jameson said, he had told Polly, he said, I love key lime pie. Polly, she's from the South. What can I bring? What can I bring? It was never even occurs to us, we're guys. And she's going to be the only lady there. What can I bring? And everybody's, nothing. We're just going to eat meat, and meat and salad. And Polly says, well, let me make dessert. And so, and Jameson said, well, I love key lime pie. I love key lime pie. Polly said, I'll make a key lime pie then. So we actually go over there with two key lime pies. We stopped at Jameson's house, which is like a mansion, and picked him up and take him. Why was I picking him up? I don't know. But we picked him up. We go over to Chris Dorsey's house. And it's one of those meals that I will never forget for two different reasons. One is because of what Chris made, and the other is because of what Polly made. We had moose steaks, moose tenderloin on the grill. We had elk tenderloin. We had quail stew, and several things like that. It was just awesome. So then comes the time to eat dessert, and Polly's brought 2 key lime pies, and so she brings them out, and everybody's excited. Jameson's real excited about eating key lime. So Polly cuts them and just gives every. So we all sit down, and they're waiting for Polly to come before they ever take a bite. And Polly sits down, so we all kind of take a bite, our first bite of Polly's key lime pie at the same time. You put it in my mouth, and I'm looking across, and I look at other people, and everybody puts it in their mouth and goes like this. Ooh, that's really good. That's really good. And Polly goes, oh, something's wrong with this. Well, it was so bitter. I mean, it was like you bit into a green persimmon or something. And so we said, so what did you do? So we reverse engineered it. And I think I've told you that when Polly and I first got married, she could not cook, okay? Well, she had made the key lime pie according to the recipe, and it said, like the juice of 4 limes, but she saw 4 limes. And so ground up the peeling and everything. The peeling and everything was in there. Ooh, yeah. But I never saw Chris Dorsey again. Have not seen him to this day. And then the other afternoon, when I got back to the house, I get this catalog. It's the Autumn Collection of Sporting Classics. And I've never subscribed to Sporting Classics, but I've seen it at a couple of friends' house, and I've always thought, man, what a beautiful magazine. And so I thought, I'm going to subscribe to this. I want to get this. And I right on the cover, there's something that's a director's cut of something. And very first page, I open it up, and this is what I read. Director's cut. Through the lens of the largest outdoor TV producer in history, the world of sporting literature has a new classic from one of the planet's most widely traveled men. Director's cut. Hunting big game through the lens of the largest outdoor TV producer in history. Executive producer Chris Dorsey has created a book and film production more than 15 years in the making, along with a team of the world's best sporting life photographers and cinematographers embarking on expeditions to distant corners of the globe. The guy that lived in the little apartment in LA that Polly tried to poison with a key lime pie is now the largest outdoor TV producer in history and one of the planet's most widely traveled hunters. How about that? I got to figure out how to get in touch with him. So it's just amazing how you just run into people back. You know, I lost Anthony for a long time. I didn't know where Anthony Crawford was, and was in an airport and looked down on a Sunday at the rack of newspapers, looked down, and I see the Sydney Herald from Sydney, Australia, and it's a Sunday morning, and so there's a color picture on the headline, and it's right, you know, it's color picture right above the photo, big picture of what had happened in the Sydney Opera House the night before, and big color picture, beautiful, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, and I just kind of glance at it, and there are three guys leaning into a microphone singing. And it's like, it's Neil Young, Bruce Springsteen, and Anthony Crawford. I was like, oh my gosh, it's it. I hadn't seen him since college. And so it was just amazing. But now Anthony's written hundreds of songs and just amazing musician. I got several musician friends that are amazing. I guess Jimmy has moved himself to the front of the line this week with a number one. It's hard to beat a number one song that you wrote, I guess. Okay, hey, let me tell you something that some of you, I've seen some of the comments here, and some of you have already seen what we released this morning. It is it's a video and an article that I decided to put together before the election. It's very different, okay, because I feel very strongly that when people can gather the information to understand, you know, what a particular vote means or what it is for, or, you know, what is actually happening around them, I think it's easier for people to make a decision. And I've talked to a bunch of people over the past few weeks who said, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to vote, or yeah, I don't know who vote for, and yeah, I don't like either guy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like either guy either. Okay. But I'm going to vote because neither guy really matters to what's going on. And so I have spent a lifetime praying to try to understand complicated things so that I can explain complicated things that are confusing us in a simple way. And I've wanted to do that so that people could have some control over their own lives and understand that they can do some things without waiting for somebody else to do it for them. And so I also don't want to be put in a position of getting in an argument with somebody about, well, you're stupid if you don't do this, and if you don't see this, blah, 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 blah. I think a lot of things can be handled with a conversation and helping people understand what they believe and lining that up with how they vote. I had a situation a number of years ago where a friend had mentioned that she was voting a certain way, and I said, really? I'm just kind of surprised. I said, really? Oh, that's kind of surprising. And she said, why would it be surprising? I've always voted that way, and my parents voted that way. And I said, no, that's fine. I'm just surprised because I know you, and I've known you for a long time, and I hear you talk, and I know what you believe, and you don't believe anything the people you're voting for believe. And she says, what do you mean? And so I said, well, you believe this, and they believe this, and you believe this, and they believe that. And she was like, seriously? I said, yeah. And so I said, here, I can show you where to find this stuff. And so she changed the way she votes. And I think, I'm not trying to get somebody, I don't want to coerce anybody into doing anything they don't want to do, but I sure don't want to just be quiet and let people do something they don't want to do when they didn't even know they were doing it, right? And so I think that if we can explain it, so if you will look, this should have come in on your email. If you're signed up on andyandrews.com with your email address, then this should be in there, okay? And I think if you watch it, it's the article and it's the video. Okay, so you can read along with me as I'm doing it, or you can just watch it. And I think you might want to send it to some friends. Okay, it's a very, very, very nonviolent way of helping somebody decide. Because I already told you I don't like either guy. Okay, and so I've had people say, and we say this in here, that I'm tired of voting for the lesser of two evils, and I'm just not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. And I'm like, well, yeah, I hear you. I know what you're saying. But when you think about it, the lesser of two evils is the only choice we've ever had in any election we've ever had in our lives. And the reason is because Jesus never ran for office. Okay, and so, that only leaves you and me. Good-hearted, well-meaning people who've still managed to lie and do things we shouldn't have done. And so I'll leave you with this story, okay? And I tell this story in this video. This is in this, but I want to tell you the story, give you a little taste of it, and how maybe explain a little bit about how things aren't always as they seem with the politics. And I know you go, yeah, no kidding. But even really, really, really smart people can be fooled. If you've read How Do You Kill 11 Million People, you know how an entire nation was led down a wrong path. Well, the article that I've written, the video I've done, is about the team. and it's about it's about the Supreme Court appointments. And, and I say very clearly in this video, I don't think it's going to offend anybody, because I say very clearly, if you believe this, so let's examine what you believe. If you believe this and this and this, then you need to vote for Joe Biden. And if you believe this and this and this, you need to vote for Donald Trump, because those beliefs are how they are going to decide who it is that they select for the Supreme Court appointments. And the appointments in the Supreme Court over these next 4 years are going to set America in stone for certainly the next couple or three generations. I mean, certainly for the rest of your life and for the rest of the life of your children and probably your children's children. And so, but here is a way that I was fooled at one point. This was a number of years ago. Have you ever heard anybody say, and I tell this story on the thing, have you ever heard anybody say, I don't vote according to a political party, I vote for the person? You ever heard that? I have too. In fact, I said it a bunch of times. Years ago, I used to say that. And I always thought it sounded very impartial when I said that. It sounded pretty smart to me, that I'm not, stupid enough to just vote according to what, I'm voting for the person. I mean, that just seems so smart, okay? Well, we were in, I won't tell you where we were, but we were at a gathering one time, just a bunch of buddies getting together. And one of our friends told us, he said, next week, nobody knows this yet, but next week, I'm going to be declaring a run for Congress. We're like, seriously, you're running for Congress? Yep, I feel like it's time, and I'm going to, and, so he's going to run for Congress. And so as you talk to that, then he says, I'm going to run with, as this party. And we were like, really? You're running as a member of that party? And he was like, yeah, I am. And somebody said, you've never been a part of that party. And our friend said, well, this congressional district has never elected anybody from that party. And so if I'm going to get elected, I have to run with that party. And so there's some like grumbling from people, but I'm sitting there, I'm kind of listening. And our friend says, look, you have to, there's got to be some point that, somebody gets in there and da-da-da-da-da. And he said, I'm the same guy that I've always been. You guys know what I believe. You guys know me. And when I get to Washington, I'm going to vote my conscience. And I'm going to vote with the same values and beliefs that we've always had. I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, I totally believed him. Totally believed him. And, and I helped. And as we got closer to the election, I happened to mention to a friend of mine who was older and wiser about this odd situation. Yeah, it's like, a friend of mine, and he's running for Congress, and it looks like he's doing pretty good, and he's running for the other party, but it appears, that he's going to win, and he's going to get up there and he's going to vote totally. I mean, it probably upset him because he's going to vote according to the way he believes, and we know how he believes. And my older and wiser friend, he just kind of looked at me and smiled and shook his head. He said, Andy, you have been taken. He said, if your friend is elected, he is going to immediately turn his back on everything you think he believes, and every vote he makes is going to be totally the other way. And I thought, I really thought, you're out of your mind. This guy looked me in the eye. He told me, I've known this guy as long as I've known you. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, right? And so our friend was elected, and he was a congressman for several terms. And he did exactly what our older and wiser friend said he would do. Exactly. I was crushed. It blew me away. But now I totally understand it. I totally understand what happened because I know how that game is played. And here's how that game is played. There are only two teams on the court. So forget political parties. If you don't want to think in terms of political parties, that's fine, because I don't like thinking in that terms either. But I think of it as a big basketball game. This is like there are two teams on the court. That's how basketball's played, right? There's only two teams on the court. All right, so let's just say you and I are best friends, and we're going down to the YMCA one day, and we're going to play a game pickup basketball. And so they select captains, and the captains go, choose you, and then he chooses you, and then he. And let's just say, even though we're best friends, we end up on opposite teams. All right, so as the game gets going, every time you get the ball, I say to you, hey, here, throw it to me, here. But you don't throw it to me. I mean, you're not going to throw it to me. Why? Because I'm on the other team. And while the game is being played, you're not throwing the ball to me. I mean, if by some weird reason that you felt sorry for me and just one time, okay, just say just one time you threw me the ball, you know what happens there, right? At that point, you can be sure you are never getting the ball again. I mean, your team will jump all over you. They will never, you'll never get your hands on the ball again. They will totally freeze you out of the game. And that's what happens when somebody gets to Washington. If you're going to be on a committee, if you're going to be invited to anything, if you're going to be able to go back to your congressional district and say, yeah, I met with so-and-so, if you're going to do anything, there is such pressure that comes to bear that we don't need to watch the individuals so much as we watch the teams. So, because whatever team they're on is going to totally convince that person, they will put the pressure on that person to throw it through their hoop. And if they don't throw it through their hoop, they're out of the game. And there's many ways they can kick them out of the game. So anyway, the entire thing, I took too long telling that. I tell it much quicker in the video. But in the video and in the article, I think you will be able to make some use of it, and hopefully your family will enjoy it. And feel free to pass it around. And thank you, guys. And we'll see you. I was trying to see if there's anything else I left out here. We'll see you next week. Okay, now I can say have a good Friday, have a good weekend.